Let me tell you something no one dares to say out loud. It's not your charm. It's not your bank account. And it's definitely not the number of compliments you hand out like candy. If you want a woman to feel something for you, to be drawn to you without resistance, you don't chase her. You master yourself. That's the truth most men are too afraid to hear. And it's why they keep getting ghosted, overlooked, forgotten. They follow the script society gave them. Be nice. Be funny. Be romantic. Buy the dinner. Compliment her shoes. Text her good morning first. And when she pulls away, they panic, thinking more effort will fix it. But it doesn't, because effort isn't the problem. Presence is. You see, attraction isn't created through action. It's revealed through energy, through stillness, through self-command. When you stop reaching outward, she begins leaning in. Real attraction begins the moment you stop needing her. It begins when your peace is louder than her tests. It begins when your silence speaks more than your jokes ever could. That's why men who chase often lose, while men who stand still with certainty are the ones who linger in her mind. This has nothing to do with being alpha, and it's not about manipulating anyone. It's about removing the noise, the performance, the anxiety, and becoming a man who's centered, calm, immovable. That kind of man doesn't panic when she doesn't reply. He doesn't flinch when she tests him, because his world doesn't shake just because someone walks in or walks out. If you've ever been in a relationship where you gave everything, your time, your energy, your devotion, only to be met with silence or cold distance, you know how painful it is to feel invisible. But here's the shift. She didn't pull away because you weren't good enough. She pulled away because you weren't grounded enough. What she was looking for was a man who doesn't chase approval, a man who radiates stability, a man who leads with calm. That's what Stoicism teaches you to become. So, if you're ready to stop chasing and start attracting by mastering yourself, let's begin. Because the moment you stop reaching outward is the moment she starts leaning in. Let's talk about what happens when she feels that shift. Before either of you says a word, she begins to feel it. Not when you speak louder, but when you speak less. Not when you try harder, but when you stop trying altogether. There's a silent shift that happens in the dynamic between men and women. It's almost invisible. You won't see it, but you will feel it in her gut. And it begins the moment you stop chasing. The moment you no longer seek her validation. When you stop trying to win her and start winning yourself back. That's when something changes. You become different from every man she's ever met. Not because you say the right things, but because you're not controlled by the outcome anymore. You're not texting just to fill a silence. You're not complimenting her to earn a reaction. You're not planning your next move like a chess player in a losing game. You detached. And that scares her in a good way, because most men are predictable. They crave her attention like oxygen, but you've trained yourself to breathe without it. That's when you become magnetic. She doesn't feel watched. She feels drawn. She doesn't feel pressured. She feels curious. And curiosity, my friend, is the seed of desire. Women aren't attracted to men who perform. They're attracted to men who are. When you show her that you're grounded, when you demonstrate that you're not swayed by her silence, her mood, her tests, she'll begin to see you not as a man who needs her, but as a man who knows himself. That's the shift. It's not in your words. It's in your presence. It's in how you respond to chaos without becoming part of it. Let me ask you, when was the last time you were truly unshaken by someone else's behavior? When was the last time you stood your ground emotionally without flinching, even when things felt uncertain? If you can't remember, it's time to remember who you are. The man who doesn't chase. The man who leads by stillness. The man who doesn't fear the loss of a woman because he's already found himself. That's what Stoic masculinity looks like. And once she senses it in you, she won't look away. Now here's the truth no one tells you. Your presence speaks first, but your words seal the impact. Let's talk about how to speak like a man who doesn't chase. Words matter, but not in the way you've been told. It's not about clever lines or rehearsed compliments. It's not about being funny, charming, or slick, because the truth is, she's heard it all before. The flattery, the lines, the praise dressed in neediness. And she's tired of it. What she hasn't heard, what she's starving to hear, are words spoken from a man who doesn't need anything from her. Words that carry no agenda, only presence, only clarity. You don't need to impress her. You need to see her, not just her beauty, not just the way she walks or talks, but the weight she carries, the fire in her curiosity, the intention behind her words. When you speak to that part of her, the part few men notice, that's when something inside her begins to open, not because of the sentence you said, but because of the space you held for her to be seen. Say her name, not often, not like a trick. Say it with calm intention, as if her name was a truth, not a performance. When she shares something meaningful, pause, breathe, then say, I can feel how much this matters to you. That's rare. Say it with depth, not delivery. She doesn't want to be flattered. She wants to be understood. And most men, they're too busy planning their next line to ever listen. They're too wrapped up in trying to be impressive. They miss the opportunity to be real. So don't try to be witty. Be present. Don't talk to fill the silence. Let silence become the most powerful sentence in the room. Because when you speak after that, your words land like weight, not whispers. That's how you stand out. Not with volume, but with value. A man of few words, who chooses them with precision, who speaks like a mountain and not a river. That's the man who lingers in her memory. So stop performing. Stop entertaining. You are not here to win her over. You are here to speak truth, grounded, still powerful. And in that space, she won't just hear your words. She'll feel your presence. But even the most powerful words mean nothing if your body tells a different story. Let me show you how your silence, your posture, your stillness becomes your loudest message. You can say all the right words. You can memorize the perfect phrases. But if your body betrays you, if your presence shakes, she'll feel it, even if she can't explain why. Because women don't just listen with their ears. They read, they observe, they sense. And what they sense before anything else is energy, not the forced kind, not the loud, chest-pounding kind, but the quiet certainty that radiates from a man who knows who he is and doesn't need the world to confirm it. So let's talk about that energy. Let's talk about how your body speaks long before your mouth does. When you walk into a room, what do you signal? Are you rushing, scanning, adjusting yourself like you don't belong? Or do you move with purpose? Feet firm, shoulders relaxed, breath steady, as if this world was already yours, not in arrogance, but in calm ownership. Most men don't notice how they shrink themselves. They fold their arms, avoid eye contact, tap their foot, speak too fast, nod too often. They're trying to be liked, but they're signaling uncertainty. Now, picture a man who pauses before he speaks, who looks you in the eyes, not to intimidate, but to connect, who stands like a tree, rooted, unwavering. That's the man she notices. That's the presence that leaves an imprint. Stoicism teaches this, not in theory, but in practice, in how you hold your body, in how you breathe through discomfort, in how you choose to be still when most men are scrambling. You want to show strength? Then stop chasing moments to prove it. Let it live in your stillness. Let it echo in how you sit, how you walk, how you pause. Let your calm be the contrast to her chaos. Let your slowness be the thing that makes time stop. You don't need to impress her with gifts or grand gestures. The way you exist should already be unforgettable. And when she sees you like that, when she watches you move, not with ego but with embodiment, she won't just feel attracted. She'll feel safe. And that, brother, is what creates real desire. Once your body speaks confidence, the question becomes, how much do you really need to do? Because in the world of masculine presence, subtlety often wins. Most men think they have to do more messages, more gifts, more effort, as if effort alone will open her heart. But let me ask you this, what if doing less said more? Because in a world where men try to impress with noise, the one who moves with subtlety becomes unforgettable, not because he tries harder, but because he tries smarter. You don't need grand romantic gestures to win her over. You don't need to book a trip to Paris or write poetry under candlelight. What she remembers, what moves her, are the moments where you proved you were present. She mentioned a book once. You remembered. She told you about a fear. You didn't fix it. You held space for it. She spoke, and you listened, really listened. That's what hits her heart. Not the size of your action, but the depth of your awareness. Stoic men understand this, because their focus isn't on doing more. It's on being more intentional, more observant, more still. While others talk, they listen. While others show off, they withdraw. Not because they're cold, but because they don't seek applause. They seek truth, and truth doesn't need decoration. When you check in with her, not to fix, not a charm, but just to care, that's when she feels seen. And in a world where women are used to being stared at, but rarely understood, that kind of man becomes rare. That kind of presence becomes addictive. So stop trying to entertain her. You're not her clown. You're not a performer in her personal theater. You're the one who steadies the room. The one who notices what others miss. The one who doesn't need to say, I care, because your calm gestures already whispered it. True strength is never loud. It never begs to be recognized. It just is. And when you embody that, when your actions are deliberate, not desperate, she feels it in her bones. So while other men burn themselves out chasing moments, you do less, but you move with weight. That's how you stay in her mind. That's how you change the game. Not through noise, but through quiet impact. But even the most grounded man will be tested. What happens when she pulls away? When silence grows and your instincts scream to chase? That's where your strength is truly revealed. There will come a moment when she pulls away. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but slowly, almost quietly. The text will slow down. The warmth will thin out. She'll still respond, but something will be missing. You'll feel it before you can name it. And in that moment, most men panic. They react. They chase. They try to win her back with more effort, more messages, more validation. But here's the truth. The moment you start chasing again is the moment you lose yourself again. A stoic man doesn't follow her retreat. He doesn't beg for clarity or demand explanations, because he understands a truth that breaks weaker men. Her distance is not an invitation to fix. It's a test of your center. Women pull away for many reasons. Sometimes it's confusion. Sometimes it's curiosity. Sometimes it's control. But your job is never to follow the emotion. Your job is to remain the mountain. When she becomes inconsistent, you become unshaken. When she withdraws, you don't collapse inward. You expand in presence, in self-respect, in emotional discipline. You see, when you chase her in moments of silence, you tell her that your inner peace depends on her attention. And nothing kills desire faster than a man who needs to be reassured to survive. But when you hold your ground, when you let her create the distance and still choose stillness, you tell her something much louder. I want you, but I don't need you. I'm full with or without your warmth. That's where power lives. That's where desire is reborn. Not in the man who reacts, but in the man who reflects. She'll feel it. She'll notice the shift. She may not show it, but she'll wonder, why didn't he chase me? Why didn't he beg like the others? And in that space of not being pursued, she'll remember the weight of your presence, the absence of your need, the calm in your silence. And that, brother, is when she starts to come back. Not because you try to get her back, but because you stood tall enough for her to see who she almost lost. And if you pass that test, if you hold your ground when she retreats, something powerful happens. You stop being another name in her past, and you become the man she can't forget. She'll remember you, not because you made her laugh, not because you bought her gifts, not because you tried harder than every other man. She'll remember you because you were the one who didn't flinch, the one who stayed composed when she tested, the one who didn't chase when she drifted, the one who didn't collapse when things felt uncertain. You didn't perform. You didn't play the game. You didn't sell yourself to be chosen. You simply were. And in a world full of men trying to be something. You stood out because you were everything without needing her to see it. That's what Stoicism gives you. It gives you something most men will never earn. An unshakable sense of self. Not the kind that yells, not the kind that flaunts, but the kind that feels inevitable, undeniable, unforgettable. You didn't try to win her approval because you'd already given yourself your own. You weren't desperate for her affection because you'd already learned to hold your own heart. And that kind of man, that kind of presence, it lingers, even when she walks away, even when she chooses someone else, even when she doesn't fully understand why she keeps thinking about you at 2 a.m. You're still there, not because you clung to her, but because you let her go without losing yourself. And in that stillness, that quiet confidence, that deep masculine gravity, she begins to realize you weren't like the rest. You didn't seek to impress. You didn't beg to stay. You didn't fill the silence with noise. You simply stood. And that's what makes you unforgettable. So, if you've ever wondered what makes a man different, what makes a man want to beyond the initial attraction, it's not the tactics. It's not the tricks. It's the way he carries himself when the world offers nothing. Be that man, the one who doesn't need attention to be powerful, the one who isn't afraid of distance, the one who remains, even after she leaves. Because when a man is complete, he doesn't chase. He attracts. He doesn't need to be remembered. He is remembered. And that's the real lesson here. It was never about getting her back. It was always about getting yourself back. In the end, this was never about her. It was always about you. About who you become when no one's watching. About how you respond when you're not chosen. About the kind of man you are when the world gives you nothing and you still stand tall. You don't chase women. You don't perform to be seen. You don't speak to be heard. You become the calm in her storm. You become the gravity she never expected. You become the silence that speaks louder than all the noise she's used to. Because once you master yourself, everything changes. You stop wondering what she wants. You start asking yourself what you deserve. And you begin to realize the woman who's right for you will never need to be impressed. She will simply feel it. Feel you. So let the other men play the game. Let them chase. Let them exhaust themselves trying to prove something. You're done with that. You're not here to compete. You're here to command. With stillness. With discipline. With depth. And if this message spoke to something inside you, if it reminded you of who you really are beneath the noise, then don't let it end here. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to the version of you who finally leads his own life. Leave a comment, share your story, speak your truth, because there are other men out there still chasing what they were born to attract, and they need to hear this. We're building something different here. Welcome to the Brotherhood.